Hello again, everybody. It's me, Marcus, and I review stuff. Today I'm reviewing the song Conversations by Watsky. The full name's like Lovely Thing Sweet Number 1 Conversations, but I'm just going to call it Conversations. This is a band I've never heard before, an artist. I don't know if it's an actual band or just like a singular artist. A lot of the music I seem to be reviewing on this channel is actually just one artist doing all the music. But I haven't heard this artist before, so going in totally blind. This does come as a request from like a long time ago, so I'm finally getting to it. And yeah, as always, if you would like to request something, please just leave a comment down below. I mentioned before that I'm kind of just going through and getting to all of my old requests first. So I apologize if you've requested something more recently. It's going to be a while before you see it. So anyway, let's go ahead and listen to this one. This is Watsky, Conversations. Here we go.
I remember vividly, my tears dropping on the gray carpet on the top steps, Pop's giving me his best guess. Me confessing the burning question, stressing and concerning me and turning me to a wet mess. It's probably nothing, I get it, I'm aware. I know it's probably stupid to be scared, but these days are flying past us and nobody seems to care. It's like we're sprinting towards a brick wall we're pretending isn't there. What happens when we hit it? Do we split into a million bits, or do we come back as a bullfrog and talking ribbits? What is it? What is it? You got the answer, so give it, so give it, so give it. Don't lie. What happens when we die? Dad says, Georgie, I'm just guessing from what I've been told. Probably thinking, how'd I raise this emo fucking 9-year-old? Since I'm sorta really not religious, it's a crapshoot. I'll roll a paradise. Although the thought of paradise is very nice, in my heart I know I don't believe in magic. So I'm thinking maybe death is like eternal TV static, or returning to the state before your birth, absorbed into the earth. The fewer hours left, the more they're worth. I admit that it's difficult to think about. I think everybody got a little bit of doubt. You don't get to hide from it even if you shout. Not a soul on the planet gets to wiggle out. And he said that I know that it's tough to take in some, but it's so early I could see her in a hurry. But don't worry, cause
it isn't for a long, long time. That isn't for a long, long time. That isn't for a long, long time. That isn't for a long, 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 long time.
Life moves fast, made the mistake of blinking 20 years past. Now I'm sitting in my living room in Brooklyn with my father. We don't bother doing Christmas in the Bay any longer. It's the first time that we've had this conversation. He says it's tough to take in. I know we're not quite ancient, but we reached the age where we should probably talk arrangements. We could take it several routes. We could sell the house. We can't work forever. Eventually money will run out. That's a spot. Taking a loan would help us cover, which would make it tougher to leave something for you and your brother. Stop, can't you see? Every meal that you paid for me, all this power to chase a dream, all this privilege not to crave riches, but it's plain to me the key fact is it's easy to act like cash means jack shit if you never lack it. And the greatest honor I could have is to make a buck and pass back a fraction of all the happiness you gave to me. And I will never make you live where you don't aim to be ages, just data. We paint our story A to Z, then dip out, R.I.P. rip out. We tear out the pages, tear up the stage, and we take a seat, making a vacancy. Famous or not, we fade from the plot. Every day when a new night falls, I ride around the sun in this big blue ball. I get a bit further from the kid called Paul, and I get a bit closer to the big brick wall. But since inching up to that fence, I can run my fingers against all the bricks and mortar and sense that it's not so cold, it's so dense. And although I'm mournful, I'm known that I'm not immortal. I'm not banging in the stone, but I'm more headed through this portal. We're born to return to home, or all born to be mincemeat. Everything dies except for Papaya King hot dogs on 86th Street. Dad hands me a napkin, tells me it's been the same since the 50s. He didn't always love the city, but damn it, he'll miss me. How can you miss something after you leave? I agree that it's sad, but please don't dwell on it, Dad, because
that isn't for a long, long time. That isn't for a long, long time. That isn't for a long, long time. That isn't for a long, 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 long time.
Wow. It's not what I was expecting at all, but I liked it a lot. That was something. A lot of heavy lyricism there. Really like his voice, although it kind of reminds me And I really don't mean this as an insult. It is sort of just as like a reference in the way my brain works. It sort of reminds me of Weird Al's White and Nerdy voice. You heard his song White and Nerdy. It reminds me of that voice. And I know that again, that might come off as an insult, but I like it. I think it sounds good. I actually really like the chorus in this one. I feel like a lot of times rap hip-hop choruses are, to me, the weakest part of the song. But I just feel like the way this one was produced, it just sounded really good. But yeah, the lyricism, man, it really heavy-hitting and something that really weighs on me a lot. So happy to talk about it. Excited to talk about it lyrically. So start here. I remember vividly my tears dropping on the gray carpet on the top step. Pop's giving me his best guess. Me confessing the burning question, stressing and concerning me, and turning me to a wet mess. It's probably nothing, I get it, I'm aware. I know it's probably stupid to be scared, but these days are flying past us and nobody seems to care. It's like we're sprinting towards a brick wall we're pretending isn't there. And, the whole song is definitely about death, aging, coming to the end of your life, basically. And we're all as humans always moving towards that brick wall, as he says. But and yet, although we all know that it's reality and it's going to happen one day, we all kind of, like he said, pretend not that it isn't there. We sort of just don't think about it all the time. Yeah, I think it's pretty heavy. And I should have read this part first. This is one of George's most heart-wrenching songs. Here he recalls this conversation he has with his father as a young boy about death. To reassure him, his father tells him not to worry, as it's not for a long, long time. As the years progress, George can't help but acknowledge the facts. Within the song, he addresses his personal belief system. He doesn't believe in heaven or God, but something different. Perhaps being absorbed into the earth. By the end of the song, George ends up reassuring his father the same way he did with him as a child, which is hardcore, man. Like, yeah, and you're right. As a father talking to a kid, it's like, yeah, it's not for a long, long time. But as you start to grow up, that long, long time becomes much shorter, and it's like, wow, yeah, it's a hard thing to kind of cope with, this whole aging thing. But these days are flying past us and nobody seems to care. It's like we're sprinting towards a brick wall we're pretending isn't there. What happens when we hit it? Do we split into a million bits, or do we come back as a bullfrog and talk in ribbits? What is it? What is it? You got the answer, so give it, so give it, so give it. Don't lie, what happens when we die? So that is one of life's great mysteries, is what does happen when we die. People who are religious will often say there's heaven and hell and purgatory and what have you, or many people believe in reincarnation, like he says here. Do we come back as a frog or whatever? Many people believe in many different things, and that is just one of the great mysteries that you only get to learn, I guess, in a sense, when you're dead. So. Dad says, Georgie, I'm just guessing from what I've been told, probably thinking, how'd I raise this emo fucking 9-year-old? That part made me laugh, because it's like, yeah, this kid's like 9 and he's asking me about death already, and what the hell? Which, I mean, hits hard, because like, I teach 5th graders. They're like 10, 11 years old maybe, and some of them do have those like, those worries. I remember talking to one of the kids. We talk every morning. We call it like the morning circle. Every morning we would talk about our feelings, about the world, about life, And I remember one kid like just telling me like, oh, I'm afraid. I was like, oh, what are you afraid of? I'm afraid of dying. And I'm like, you're like 10. And so I kind of used like the same, I guess, logic that his dad uses, is like, well, it all happens to us one day, but for you, it's not going to be for a very long, long time. So you don't have to worry about it. But at the same time, it's like, wow, what's up with this kid that they're 10 years old and thinking about the day they're gonna die? It's definitely a sobering thought. I don't know if I had thoughts like that when I was 10 or 9 even. Now that I'm like 29, I definitely have those feelings and those thoughts, which is weird because I still have, hopefully, a long, long time in my life left. So it is a weird thing. Since I'm sort of really not religious, it's a crapshoot. I roll a pair of dice. Although the thought of paradise is very nice, in my heart I know I don't believe in magic. So I'm thinking maybe death is like eternal TV static, or returning to the state before your birth, absorbed into the earth. That's kind of how I feel too, which scares me even more. It's like this X amount of years that I have is literally it. Because I'm also not very religious, although I was raised Catholic. And I'm just like, once I die, that's it. I no longer exist, and so it's like, yeah, this is it. And then that kind of gets me thinking, like, wow, all the people in the world who met their demise much sooner than they should have, people whose lives were taken from them by force or by a tragic accident. It's like, to have your life cut short, to me, is even more tragic, because I guess in my mind there's nothing after. That's it. That person no longer exists. So that's a tough thing to tough pill to swallow, if you will. It's a hard thing. But I like what he says here: the fewer hours left, the more they're worth, and that's absolutely true. I admit that it's difficult to think about, and it kind of goes back to what I said. Like, when you're a kid, you feel like you just have the rest of eternity, and so you're like, whatever, you get bored and stuff. Whereas when you're an adult, and especially an older adult, you're like, wow, I know I'm coming to the end of my life within the next X amount of years, and it's insane. And so you got to really cherish those moments that you have. I think everybody got a little bit of doubt. You don't get to hide from it, even if you shout. Not a soul on the planet gets to wiggle out. And he said that, I know that it's tough to take in, son, but it's so early. So, yeah, death is something that happens to everybody. No one gets to escape it. But he's telling his son, like, you're too young to think about this. Don't worry about it. I can see you're in a hurry, but don't worry, cuz this isn't for a long, long time. And that's what the chorus was. This isn't for a long, long time. That isn't for a long, long, long time. Life moves fast. Made the mistakes of blinking. 20 years passed. Same. Now I'm thinking in my living room in Brooklyn with my father. We don't bother doing Christmas in the Bay any longer. It's first time that we've had this conversation. He says, it's tough to take in. I know we're not quite ancient, but we've reached age where we should probably talk arrangements. So it mentioned that at first, the first part of the song, it was him as a kid being comforted by his father. Now it's his father in an older age being comforted by him. You could take it several routes. We could sell the house. We can't work forever. Eventually money will run out. That's a spot taking a loan would help us cover, which would make it tougher to leave something for you and your brother. Stop. Can't you see every million that you paid for me, all this power to chase a dream, all this privilege not to crave riches? But it's plain to me that the key fact is it's easy to act like cash means jack shit if you never lacked it. And the greatest honor I could have is to make a buck and pass back a fraction of all that happiness you gave to me. And I will never make you live where you don't aim to be. That part hit me too, because I think about my parents and the sort of life that they've been able to provide for me, and it's like, I wouldn't be where I am without them. So to me, it would be kind of like he said, a great honor to be able to just even give back half of what they've ever done for me in my life. So that one, I really felt that one. That was a really good part of the verse there. Age is just data. We paint our story A to Z, then dip out. Rip, R.I.P., rip out. We tear out the pages, tear out the stage, and we take a seat, making a vacancy. Famous or not, we fade from the plot. So we all go, no matter how famous or well-known we are. Every day when a new night falls, I ride around the sun on this big blue ball. I get a bit further from the kid called Paul, and I get a bit closer to the big brick wall. But since inching up to that fence, I can run my fingers against all the bricks and mortar and sense that it's not so cold and so dense. And although I'm mournful, I've known that I'm not immortal. I'm not banging into stone, but I'm more heading through this portal. So I think he's kind of coming to finding peace in the wall, basically. Like, yes, we're all heading to this huge brick wall, but it doesn't have to be a scary thing. You can make peace with it, and at the end of the day, it's not so much a wall. It's sort of a portal. So I think as he grows up, maybe he starts to realize that there is maybe something after this life. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm reading from this part here. We're born to return to home. We're all born to be mincemeat. Everything dies except for Papaya King hot dogs on 86th Street. Dad hands me a napkin, tells me it's been the same since the 50s. He didn't always love the city, but damn it, he'll miss me. How can you miss something after you leave? I agree that it's sad, but please don't dwell on it, Dad, because this isn't for a long, long time. So he uses his dad's words to kind of comfort him as well as he's thinking about his eventual death. Yeah, very hard-hitting song, lyrically very well written, very real, down to earth. Just, man, and it hits me right here, because as I continue to get older, as we all do, I do think about death a lot. I do think about aging. I think I mentioned it in a previous video. For me, I tied a lot to like basketball. I love playing basketball, but I know that my years of playing like competitive, fast-paced, and trying to keep up with the young ones, trying to keep up with the 18, 19, 20-year-olds is very limited at this point. I'm reaching that age where, like, I'm like, I maybe have a decade left of like good basketball, and it's like, man, what am I gonna do with my life when I'm kind of playing in the recreational leagues versus in the more competitive leagues that I currently play in. So it's like, well, played in before COVID. So it's like, yeah, aging is a bitch. It's a hard thing. And I think my parents are on the older side. My mom's in her 60s. My dad is about to turn 60. So it's like, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to think about. Hell, even my pets. I'm like, my cats are 10 and 6 respectively. It's like that, cats only live so long, unfortunately. Death is a hard thing, and I've experienced it a lot in my life. I come from a very old family. All 4 of my grandparents were deceased by the time I was 10. I never really got to know my grandparents on my mom's side, and I only had my grandparents on my dad's side, again, until I was 10, and they passed away from old age, again, come from a very old family. And so I've lived more of my life without my grandparents than I have with my grandparents. So death is a very hard thing for me. Again, I've experienced it from a very young age. But, we always move on. In 2019, I had one of my favorite cousins pass away in January. One of my uncles passed away in February. And then one of my aunts passed away in March. 2019 was a hard year for me. But, here I am, still going on. And I think that's kind of the end. The moral of the story is like we all have to keep moving on. Yeah, this became quickly a downer. Sorry, but it's something that you don't ever forget those people. I think about them all the time. But hell, even my grandparents, who I haven't seen in 19 years at this point, it's like I still think about them all the time. And so they're always right here. Even if there is no eternal life, we live on through the people who remember us. It's kind of the message of Coco, if you guys have seen that movie. But, whatever. Moving on. Love the lyrics. 2 thumbs up. Instrumentally, I like the beat, the rhythm that he kept throughout. I really liked the way the chorus was sung. It felt like almost like a little choir. Not really like I don't want to say a church choir, but it just felt like it was very well handled. I'm glad that he didn't try to sing the chorus, I guess, on his own. I don't really know if he was part of that chorus or not. I like that he kind of brought in some help there. Again, I feel like in rap, hip-hop, whatever you want to call this genre, the chorus to me is usually the weakest part, whereas I actually did enjoy the chorus. It gave me, because he kind of kept a fast pace with his rapping, and he even sped it up at times. The chorus, I felt like in this one really gave me some time to breathe, which I really liked. And then I liked his voice, even though I compared it to Weird Al in White and Nerdy. I still liked it a lot. And I liked the speed at which he rapped during certain parts. Yeah, just really great delivery overall. To me, that was the big highlight. I give it 2 thumbs up. As far as replay value goes, this is going to be one of those that is not for every day. It's got to be the right mood. I got to go into the right mindset, because it is a very heavy subject, and it's something that, kind of like he said, there's a brick wall at the end that we don't like to think about. I don't like to think about it all the time. So this is one of those, it's like, maybe not for every day, but it definitely has its place there. And I finally understand this image that I'm seeing here. It's him and his dad. It makes a lot more sense now. Anyway, yeah, that's it. 2 thumbs up all around, even for replay value, just because when I am in that certain mood, this is a go-to song for sure. This is a good one. So, yeah, really enjoyed the song. Thank you if you ever requested this one like 8 months ago or something like that. as always, if you would like to make a request, leave a comment down below. If you enjoy the artist, I'll check to see if they're on Spotify. If they are, I will put them in my Spotify playlist, which has every single song I've heard so far on my channel. It's going to be weird. I mean, this is the first rap song that's going in there in a while. So there's so many genres in there that it's a weird playlist, and it doesn't make any sense. But, you know, whatever. If you want to support me, just consider doing all the normal stuff you do on YouTube. Like and subscribe and comment. That's it for me. Hope you're staying safe and healthy. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye.